All right, everybody. Steve Metrics here, and I'm here with yo boy
DJ Triggs.
DJ Triggs. Yep. And together we are No Debate Sports, coming off our hot night of our fantasy football draft, our first live draft, and a big one, a 16 team draft yesterday as well. So quite the endeavor. Long time of drafting, and yeah, definitely tough physically making it through it, but good times, man. Yeah, a little interesting about my team, but yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Really glad. Triggs, were you getting sleepy through it?
No, man, that was a long draft yesterday. It was like what,
It
4 hours?
was. I think it was 3.5 because I think
Three
we
and a half.
started at
Yeah.
7:30 and then we went to 10:30.
Yeah.
So I mean, shoot, I remember the plenty of the nights where you and we've been out at a certain restaurant and we're there till like closing time till like 11 o'clock at night. So even though it was virtual, I still think we did a pretty good job. And with 16 people, it's always tough. So, but yeah, I'm just glad we went through it. I'm glad there weren't auto picks galore, and I'm glad people really worked hard and ultimately drafted really well. So, definitely giving a lot of people a lot of props. So, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. I mean, there was some random, kickers and defenders and
True.
quarterbacks getting picked all over the place, but besides that, it was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get that randomness going on, but I do feel people built some really strong teams, and I do feel people really got on board with the trend of making sure you had pretty good pass catchers, but also having some solid workhorses carrying the rock. Unfortunately, I cannot say that about myself. I don't know why, but somehow I got to round 10 and thought I could just pick wide receivers galore, and it derailed my focus. I had a game plan going in. I had some
Well,
kinks along the way, but yeah. Well, yep.
let's not spoil that because we'll definitely
True.
show the world the Steve Metrics team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, some good stuff there. And in another world of sports that we love covering here at No Debate Sports, I had some very interesting stuff going on in basketball with a U.S. Basketball team that seemed to be loaded.
Man, it was bad. Like I just let out a sigh. Um, the US beat Montenegro. They were in their second bracket. Um, and after getting, basically through the first one pretty easily with teams like Greece and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
they had to run into Lithuania. And yeah, yeah. Let's just pull this up here real quick. Um,
Okay.
they they lost by 6, so it looks like it wasn't bad. But then when you look at that first quarter, they lost the first quarter by 19. Uh,
Whoa.
yeah, it got up to 21 at a certain point, and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, this is bad." Um,
Yeah.
and the big focus on this, everything looks the same. I mean, three-pointers, it was three difference, but percentages looks a little different. But 43 rebounds to 27 and
Okay.
offensive rebounds 18 to 9. And like
Okay.
I'm literally sitting there going, what in the world is happening? Like Lithuania has Jonas Valanciunas, which big guy, 7 foot, 270
Yep.
pounds.
Yep.
Pretty well known for his time in Toronto and Memphis,
Exactly.
um, in the NBA. And Jaren Jackson Jr., which I spoke of once before about I felt like he wasn't a center. He
Yep.
got bullied, like
Mm.
absolutely bullied in the first couple minutes and basically was in foul trouble. I think he even fouled out at a certain point. But Jonas had a plan to go in there and pound on the inside, and it was over. They were down 13 at a certain point in the first quarter. They finally called the timeout. They got Jaren Jackson out, and they put Walker Kessler in, who literally hasn't played like at all.
Okay.
He got
Yeah.
5-6 minutes in this game, and then they tried Paolo in there for a second. Paolo got beat up. I mean, he's only like 6'9", so it's at 4 inches difference is a lot. And 20-30 pounds with Jonas. Basically, even their guards were posting up players and
Okay.
kind of bullying Jalen Brunson and Ant-Man too.
Sure.
Yeah, like, and then at a certain point, I think they hit like 7 threes in a row, and it was over. Like, it was over in the first quarter. They never got
Wow.
close.
Wow.
In the end, it looks like it got close, but it was more like, okay, they're just kind of running out the clock. The U.S. is playing full court defense, fouling, hitting threes, and
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
getting it
I do have a
close.
couple. What was that?
Just kind of getting it close, not really like getting it to where it needs to be. It's more of like you're
Right.
playing the 2 possession game as opposed to the let's get it to 1 possession game.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
The only real positives that came out of it to me were Bobby Portis finally played. He all right. This is the most silly part of this whole game. In the 10 minutes that he played, he led the entire team all game in rebounds. He had 5.
Oy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's devastating. That right there shows you that you're gonna get an L.
Yeah. And you
That's
can
not okay.
tell Bobby Portis has played with stars because he was moving the ball, he was setting screens, he was moving around, and that's another part of the USA game that I've kind of complained about was a lot of one-on-one game.
Okay.
And like Tyrese Halliburton and Bobby Portis were basically the only guys that passed the ball. Yeah, other players got assists here and there, but like
Sure.
they were looking for their shot first, and then if they got in
Okay.
trouble, they made a pass.
Right.
It was so bad. Like defensively,
Gotcha.
rebounding, passing, like I I literally couldn't write very many positive things. That was it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when you got that going on where Bobby Portis is the only guy who's really played at a true elite level, and you have a bunch of individuals who are barely good enough. I mean, it's more like they're the only dominant player on their own team, so they're used to playing just ISO basketball and not really working together, especially coming from teams like Orlando or if anyone from Charlotte is part of the team where it's just like you're just kind of on your own, or even Memphis in Garrett Jackson Jr., who's played plenty of games that you haven't had. What's his name?
Ja Morant.
The John Morant. So he's gone through plenty of games where he's basically only been the guy. And even then, like the way they play in Memphis is not just a real team chemistry kind of style of basketball. So it's really frustrating to just see a Bobby Portis out there who's really the only guy who really knows how units work, how you have to collaborate with the offense and how to make things, set screens, and do that kind of stuff, and know your role and know your position on the court. So, and when you talk about a game too that kind of finishes up at about a 6 point gap or so, a while back I was actually doing some analytics on college hoops, and that's something that I really enjoy. And I basically categorized like a loss that was 7 or greater as like not even close. And if it got to like 6-4, that would be kind of like somewhat between not even close and kind of a close loss. And definitely, obviously, anything that's like 3 or less is tight. So yeah, six is not good. If you're in the 6-4 range, it's really at the end of the game, it's a bigger loss than what it should be.
Yeah. Um, just going off exactly what you're saying with the close loss, I wrote this down to it was 85-95 with 3 minutes to go, and,
Yeesh.
I mean, they ended up with, what, 106 or 100 and something like that, yeah, 100
Okay.
104, and
Sure.
so, like, they literally scored 19 points in the last 3 minutes, but they couldn't even score
Gotcha.
19 points in the entire, like, first quarter. So, it
Yep.
was it was basically garbage points that they were putting up, and Lithuania was just
Yep.
kinda, like, running the clock out, just hoping that the game was over. And then
Exactly.
here's the last thing that I'll mention. So I'm gonna bring up their player stats here.
Okay.
Uh, there's only 4 guys on the entire team in double figures, and 1 guy has
Yeah.
35.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's our guy Kermit Wiltz.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
if you notice with all of those players, except Jalen Brunson, they have barely any assists. So every time they touched the
Yep.
ball, they were literally shooting it. Didn't matter.
Yeah. Yep.
That
Exactly.
that's
It's that ISO style ball.
yeah, that's horrible. Like you have a bunch of stars on the team and like oh, here's the big thing. We did qualify for the Olympics because um with the World Cup, it goes off of I think it's 2 teams from the Americas is the way it goes, or the top 2 teams go on
Okay.
to the Olympics. So, yay, I guess, in that because the other teams in, the Americas are bad besides Canada and, yeah, so that's
Argentina.
fun.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's definitely something I've noticed here and there when I've watched a few Timberwolves games is that yeah, I mean yeah, Anthony Edwards, when he gets the ball, he shoots. He basically does his thing. He doesn't really distribute. There and maybe this is part of that personal conflict between him and Carl Anthony Towns is that you're not really distributing the ball to Carl Anthony Towns or the other players on your team. And I mean, you are the true dominant scorer on the team. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's pretty disappointing to see that there isn't that chemistry between him and especially Paulo Banchero. I could definitely see them doing their things. And then you need that size that can definitely contribute and get you those double doubles with multiple big players like a Bobby Portis and honestly, Jarrett Jackson Jr. should be another one who can get a double double consistently, but they're not there. And for a team that's coached by Mark Few and Steve Kerr, that's a bummer.
And Eric Spoelstra, and I think Tyronn
Wow,
Lue is there. Yeah.
jeez, they're
They have an
loaded.
all-star coaching staff, and, like, that's why I spoke about that timeout in the first quarter. Like, they were down
Sure.
13 before he called the timeout. Like, I was like,
Ugh.
"Do you not notice that Jonas is killing you?"
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely admit that seems to be a common thing that I've noticed between Kerr and Mark Few is that with Golden State, like if they get down big, he's just gonna kind of chalk it up to the fact that I got Clay and I got Steph, and they can get me back in the game at any given moment. And him
Mhm.
thinking that, hey, I have the Americans, I have theoretically the best players on the planet, I should be able to come back like that. And then Mark Few coaching at Gonzaga, same thing. He's got one of the best rosters in the nation, and it's very rare that Gonzaga ever gets down big to
Right.
start a game. So they're both on the same mindset, and I think that's where it really screws up, especially a team like you point out that has very little chemistry whatsoever. And at some point, when you play a team from Eastern Europe, it backfires against you. And yeah, when you were talking Lithuania, I was like, oh, that's an Eastern European nation. That might not go so hot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did.
And that's the thing is, like, I wish they would make a rule, like, you have to play in the World Cup to be on the Olympic team because
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna say 75% of these guys are not gonna be on the Olympic team. And that's how it always is. The World Cup is like no offense to any of these players, but the World Cup is kind of the like third and fourth tier stars. Like you don't see Steph or LeBron or like, those guys
Okay.
aren't coming to be on Team USA during the World Cup. So
Okay.
we always look kind of horrible. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, we win, medals here and there, but like teams like this, like Lithuania, like Jonas is not even a top 10 center in the league. So
Right.
it it kind of just makes us look bad. And so I think they
Yeah.
should change that rule that like if you want to be on the gold medal Olympic team or whatever medal they get, but the Olympic team for the USA, you should have to play in the World Cup.
Yeah, it's kind of like a it's kind of backwards compared to soccer. So like soccer really regards the World Cup greater than the Olympics.
Yeah.
And it's very odd that you just pointed out the fact that it's reverse in basketball. And maybe that comes back from the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan dream team of yesteryear, and then you had the Redeem team of probably about over the last decade that did what they did with LeBron and the likes. And now we're in this phase where America just doesn't really care about international basketball because today's NBA is so internationally dominated that it's hard enough and taxing on the body as is in this current season. And if you just add games into the summer and go at that level, it's really bad. And it's to the point that you have these injuries that can occur at a greater rate, whether it's been LeBron, whether it's been Jimmy Butler, whether it's been Steph Curry to a degree. It's at a certain point it can become too many games on the body, and then at some point towards the actual NBA playoffs, then it just becomes taxing. So I think a lot of people
See,
are seeing that, and that's why they're like, I don't want to play.
see, but that's the crazy part. Like, when did that become a thing? Because like now guys don't even like they just made that rule for NBA awards, you have to play 65 games. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
so you only have to play like 3/4 of the season to be an award guy. And back in the day, like there's the LeBron and Jordan debate and all that yada yada. But like Jordan never missed games.
right,
Never.
yeah,
And so the guys in like the 80s never missed games. Uh Wilt
exactly,
Chamberlain, he played literally you can only play 48 minutes in a game, except overtime. He
yeah,
averaged a season where he was over 48 minutes a game. Like,
yeah, yeah. He was playing over 48 minutes a game back when I was playing NBA Street Volume 2. That was my guy. Like I love Will Chamberlain. I love the fact he scored over 100 points without a 3-point arc. Wilt's my guy. He's probably one of my favorite basketball players for sure, and that's why I played him so heavily. And yeah, it shows he did it in real life too. So pretty good stuff.
yeah,
Pretty good
to
stuff.
me, like those guys, and the crazy part is those guys keep playing basketball throughout the season. So like
Yeah.
when it's the off season, they actually go to certain camps and certain
Yes.
gyms where it's only NBA players or only like really high like college players or whatever, and they
Right.
go hard. So I
Yes.
don't understand why they can't play in the World Cup.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. I think something probably around the time of COVID and the bubble championship. I think that was kind of what did that and kind of made people realize, oh, hey, if I got this time off, it can kind of help me in a way. And plus having kind of like that pushback schedule in a way and seeing that amount of rest. I think there was something there that occurred during that time span that really resonated to others on top of the fact that, hey, I mean, when we look at both the NBA and the NFL, like ultimately, and I get it, but like ultimately, guys want to get paid and not have to like excruciate their bodies to the way that plenty of players back in the 2000s and the 90s really did. So it's a different mindset. I'm not saying it's a bad mindset, but there are things that need to change. Like there's a reason why Miami Heat culture wins. And then there's a reason why New England always has a dominant defense because they go so hard nonstop. Same thing with San Francisco's defense. Like you see that culture that is in, year out, regardless of who's coaching, and looking at the Miami Heat. I mean, this all goes back to the time of Pat Riley being a head coach and handing it off to Eric Spoelstra. It's more of the culture, and if you don't have that hard nosed culture, even like a Tom Thibodeau coach team, whether it's Chicago or New York with the Knicks, it's very hard nosed basketball. I even think Mike Malone has brought that to Denver. They look like the Nuggets have that kind of hard nosed, grindy kind of culture. I mean, yes, they really made sure they were doing everything right with Jamal Murray coming off of his injury, but I think Mike Malone really emphasizes that kind of like Jim Harbaugh style of, hey, we're going to do this hard. We're going to do this my way. We're going to do it a way that's hard on the body. But at the end of the day, you're going to come into these games better than your opponents. Even like Andy Reid and the Chiefs. I think that's something that, looking at Thursday, people got to consider that, hey, the Chiefs have played notoriously harder in the preseason than almost any other NFL team in the most recent years of the NFL. So how does that look when you see a team like Detroit that I barely even saw those players out there in the preseason? So you got to go hard at it if you really want to be on top. And there are so many teams that aren't really utilizing that, and they're looking at other crazy metrics and rest and days off and that kind of thing. And I think that's having too soft of an impact. Even like how guys are guarded in the NBA, or how defensive players are failing to make really hard tackles. That's what we're seeing in today's culture.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I left that up there. The comment that we got there, that like guys make 10, 20 times more. I mean, actually probably 100 times more than anyone on that dream team. And you remember the dream team came out because the World Cup teams were only in, like, Olympic teams were college players. And they were like, okay, they're making us look bad. We're about to go and completely destroy everybody. Like, it wasn't close.
Yep. Yeah. So I like that. I like that dominance. It's kind of like the women's college game with UConn, how they used to be so dominant, and it's good to see the health of the women's college game that has expanded, and UConn has lost that shine. But there is something that for the American basketball team that, like, hey, you guys need to like establish that dominance and do what you do, because otherwise it's not looking good, and then you start to become like Team USA baseball, which has been going through the same thing for at least our entire lifetimes up until like now. I think finally with the Mookie Betts and the Trout era of USA baseball, I think now it's starting to come back. But between Mike Trout and Mookie Betts before them, it feels like the best players in the United States just only cared more about spring training and could care less about the World Baseball Classic. So, and that's my favorite format. So, is what is. I really like international competition. I think it's pretty cool.
I do too. It's fun to watch.
Exactly. So,
but speaking of competition,
yep.
How about we start off with one of my fantasy teams? Let's start off with the fantasy team that like you don't actually know about. Let me see if I can pop this one up, and we'll have you run through my team and kind of tell me what you think. So here's my starting lineup in my money league.
Gotcha. Yeah, let me zoom in on here. Okay, very interesting. So definitely seen similarities and trends to what happened yesterday within our draft. Now I'm seeing a few meshes of strategies going on here. I even like the fact that when it comes to kickers, actually Seattle is who I had as the #1 ranked kicker for this season, based on how we know. Like, we have a very strong understanding of how Seattle's offense works and operates, and it's perfect. It's perfect for Jacoby Myers. It's perfect if that team starts to take a step back on offense. So that's perfect. Jacksonville's defense I really like. I know we've talked about that when breaking down bona fide numbers and metrics and everything like that. And the fact that their division, they're going to win it. Like they get to play 6 games against teams that have questionable offenses. I mean, Houston might be the best of the bunch, but even that's a young team that if you bring in pressure, you rattle them. You kind of do a Steve Spagnuolo style of zero coverage blitzes and defensive schemes. I think that's going to work. And Jacksonville, I think, is going to dial up that blitz. I really want to learn who their defensive coordinator is because they had an amazing bona fide numbers season. So this is my metrics minute right here, sponsored by No Sports. So this is perfect for a plug for a sponsorship in the future, and we need them. We definitely need them. But there's definitely an eye to this and how they hit on their defensive picks and from 2 years ago, that draft. I love what they're doing in Jacksonville. I think people love to talk about the offense, but then people forget that, hey, the Josh Allen on defense is just as good as the Josh Allen that plays for the Buffalo Bills. So really cool stuff there. But yeah, looking at the rest of your team, this is loaded. This is what, a 10-team draft, or is this a 12-team draft?
12.
Gotcha.
I believe it was 12.
Okay. So I got to ask you this. So compared to what we did in our 16-team draft yesterday, do you feel that with this team, and I'm already looking at this team, I'm like, yeah, this team's loaded. Do you feel that you just have like a more general control and could actually see players kind of falling here and there between the cracks more with this than you did with our 16-team league draft yesterday?
That's a good question. Actually, so with this league, it was more I think the people around that I had in both situations, like, we kind of made fun of like the quarterbacks getting picked early or the
Right.
kickers and defenders and stuff like that. So like
Right.
because of wait, I got another one for us. Hold on. Boom. Because of our Bono
Yes.
value, like,
Yep.
check that fantasy depth tracker at nodebatesports.com, obviously.
Yep.
Like, players were just falling in my lap. Like,
Yeah.
if we go back to the like
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs,
Yeah.
and
Like they're
I think I
regarded
was
as
the
the two
last
best
pick.
receivers.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I was the last pick. But then I got Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, and I'm like, okay, I will just take all of them. Like,
Yeah,
it,
and I can tell you, man, like I love the platform, the interface, and how things are built. But man, I am really upset at how bad ESPN does projections. Because man, Philadelphia, like they're gonna run, and I know New England has a good offense, but this comes back to like how we built our fantasy tracker and how it's going to evolve over time. You look at a player like DeAndre Swift, and this is where we're gonna build this probably for next season. Is I want to bring the wild card position into what we do, and it is becoming relevant across many multiple teams in real life. And DeAndre Swift is that wild card position, and so many running backs have to be. Even like Aaron Jones, you got up there. He is that wild card position where he can position himself out wide, or he can catch passes out of the backfield, or he can actually run for power between the A gaps and the B gaps and the C gaps of whatever the line puts out. And Green Bay is going to do that. They have a good offensive line. So like guys like DeAndre Swift for 3.5 points, that's not going to happen. I mean, even in a standard league and not PPR, like that projection is just wrong. I know it's New England, but I'm going to tell you flat out that projection is nowhere near close to what it should be.
so
Like,
let me
especially week one, you have to prove to me that like you can stop the run, and right now, no one can really say that except for maybe Philly.
so the scoring is a little wonky in this league. So every 50 passing yards, you get 1.5. A passing touchdown is 4. 400 passing yard game is 2. Every 50 rushing yards is 2.5. Every rushing touchdown is 6. Um, every 25 rushing yard or receiving yards is a point. Half point PPR. And then every receiving touchdown is also 6. So like the scoring is a bit lower than normal. So like a high scoring team is going to be like 70. But yeah, I mean, if they don't expect him to get 50 yards, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just looking at the starting lineup, I really like it. Yeah, I mean, I even think Miami against LA. I love the fact they put that game in a later afternoon game because that game is going to be full of intrigue. Big, like two big questions of that game is, all right, how does LA's offense look? We have no idea. It's a Kellen Moore offense. They're loaded at multiple positions, but we don't know how this offense is going to work. And Kellen Moore, with a pretty solid roster in Dallas, failed. So that is what it is. And then we go to Miami, and Miami's basically just Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like, it is what it is. Their running back position is a little banged up, and it's pretty shocking that they were not able to land Jonathan Taylor. Like, they absolutely need to make a deal for Jonathan Taylor as soon as possible. And that would help me as well for my fantasy team. But they need that because both was it Jeff Wilson and Devon A-Chain are both really banged up. So they need to have that second runner, and this is a team that can run really well with two backs out of that backfield. The way they rotate them in, I would definitely say Mike McDaniels is one of the best at it, and he comes from the line of Kyle Shanahan. So it's really beautiful how they do that kind of style running game, but they need it. So I love what you got there. I'm a little concerned with Tua, who's
This
boy, someone
That's my
someone was
bench.
watching our okay. Someone was definitely watching some of our YouTube videos out there for a good quarterback number 2. So that's interesting. I
Yeah.
love the bench. Um, yeah, it's an interesting league, and it's an interesting league for the fact that they don't have a dedicated tight end spot. So you pretty much just grab the best one you like, and that's the one you're going to rock on your team. And Cole
Yeah.
Kmet's that guy. Cole Kmet is incredibly solid. We saw he has a Bono value greater than 1, so he is an elite tight end in today's NFL. There you go, guys. There you go. Bono value. Check out the tracker. You'll find out who all of these bona fide players are if they have a value greater than 1, and you'll see their names are in bold all caps font. So there you go. We got that. You're with me on Deuce Vaughn with Tony Pollard, so I like that. Pretty good stuff. He's feisty. He's got that Darren Sproles kind of vibe. I think that's what we're seeing with a guy like Deuce is he has that. Even Zach Charbonnet's got that as well. So we'll see what we got up there, but the bench is solid. I like what you got with Alvin Kamara. Kind of looking back at my strategy from yesterday, like I do love having a player that is not going to play for a bit, but in like the caveat of that is you have to have a very solid team. And technically, I did not follow that. My team, I mean, I like my team to a certain extent, but I didn't. There's things that I know I can improve on, but I like the fact of what you did with Alvin Kamara. Last season, I did this with DeAndre Hopkins. I was not expecting to start as hot as I was, and I was hoping to just go like 500 into week 7. And when I hit week 7, I got D Hop back. Didn't have to play him too much, whether it was matchups or health. But the fact that I knew that I had D Hop after week 7 was just a game changer, and almost ran the table after that. So pretty good stuff. But all right, here we go. So here's my team. Here is the Steve Metrics team, and we can talk a little bit about the strategies that I like and a little bit about the mishaps that I feel like I did. So probably the thing I definitely want to start with is I needed more time. I like the strategy I came in with, but not like understanding the full game plan and not letting that marinate over a long amount of time. That's something I point out in one of our videos is you need to start this early. So like when you're building your puzzle and you're assembling it from your cheat sheet, you really want to start like a good month before your actual draft. And you do that knowing your positions, you're good to go. We're going to do this more in the future where we're actually going to show you multiple different models, whether you're at the front, the back, or the middle of your league draft. So you could essentially go into a draft without knowing exactly where you're going to be positioned and build a solid team, and you can make those game plans morph together. So that's the thing I noticed. You and I both agree there was a certain point where both of us had a shot at George Kittle, and we definitely should have taken that bull by the horns. And then the other thing I look at too is from that, even though I got Jared Goff, I feel like I could have easily still been fine if I chose to not go Jared Goff. Kenny Pickett is the one that I'm ultimately thinking is going to be my true number one quarterback. I like Jared Goff, but I do see him taking somewhat of a step back. So I built this team in a style that basically the overall team is strong. Like the team is healthy. But if I fail to put out guys that have optimal matchups, the team will fail. So that can hit me hard at the running back position, and it can hit me hard at the tight end position, maybe. Like I am really considering just rocking two tight ends. I am kicking around a third. But the thing is too, like my lineup is built in a way that like I got really good guys that can catch the ball, and I can't jeopardize the future of Tony Pollard. If he goes down, it's Deuce Vaughn. Like that's a fact. So I have to be ready for that. But I do have the interchangeable things going on at quarterback. But that's the thing is like, hey, do I want to roll the dice and possibly get to a point where maybe I just run with one quarterback? Once I get beyond my bye weeks. So that's something that could open up another roster spot for my team and provide me with a little more depth. So I'm kind of going out there with the traditional 11 personnel. I'm pretty much building my team with a tight end and a running back. The way you see our team right here, it's pretty much exactly what you see in real life. You could either see multiple running backs on the field. You could see three wideouts. You could see 12 personnel with one back and two tight ends. So that's exactly how we do it is we just make it similar to real life. We got a few different scoring things on. We go 8 points for a touchdown. Other than that, we're standard. But I do want that synergy between Goff and Laporta. So the fact that there's no Chandler Jones on Thursday with the Chiefs game, I think that's going to end up doing fairly well. Goff's played in hostile environments before. I mean, this is a guy who's played a good chunk of his career against San Francisco and Seattle, and plus, like having weird outdoor conditions, like coming to Chicago in the dead of winter, coming to Green Bay in the dead of winter, now being in the NFC North. I feel like his overall game playing outdoors is improving. So I like that. The thing that I do like about this too is that I built it with young wide receivers and receivers who play the slot and receivers who have that X position like you have with Rashad Penny. So a guy like Elijah Moore is a guy who's going to be like Debo Samuel or Curtis Samuel. We don't know exactly how he's going to operate in that offense, but there's something there. And I feel like that cat is going to pop out of the hat, and we're going to see what tricks Elijah Moore has. Other than that, I'm with you on DJ Moore. I think this year he absolutely explodes with a phenomenal quarterback in Justin Fields. We know he does weird stuff out of the backfield on screen plays. Zay Flowers is the number one receiver in Baltimore. So that's who I chose over George Kittle. And the thing is, when I built my puzzle, I envisioned that I would land 3 out of 5 tight ends or have a shot at almost 4 out of 5 tight ends. I only got 2. That was shocking. That was the biggest shock I had in our draft, was how well people chose to go after tight ends. And even a league where we have 12 personnel, I mean, I do that to help people in a way too, but I did not expect tight ends to be so picked over. And actually one that I was kind of bearish about, but I think now I'm becoming more bullish now that I'm getting a little more understanding of the offense, is I really do think Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo is going to be a heck of a tight end. I think he's going to be that final big piece of that offense that Buffalo and Josh Allen has been clamoring for, is get a big body target out there. And Josh Allen needs that. He doesn't need a bunch of speed demons. I mean, he's got them, but at some point you need a Darren Waller body on your team.
That makes sense. Like with the let's go to your bench.
Yep.
We all know that you have your love for Kenny Pickett and George Pickens.
Yes.
Why Jalen Hyatt?
So Jalen Hyatt is a player that I chose because I've seen the hierarchy change with the Giants, and I've also understand Brian Daboll's offense. I know that he wants to open things up. I know that he's very good at the passing game. I rode with Darius Slayton last year. I don't know if I had Hodgins, but I like Hodgins. Hodgins is more that big body kind of receiver. But Jalen Hyatt, too, like for the beginning of college football last season, like people said Tennessee was possibly the best team in the country and that like they had phenomenal odds to make the college football playoff. They didn't. But during that time, I was seeing a lot of highlights of Jalen Hyatt. And I know there's a lot of great receivers that are now in the NFL and across various different teams, including my guy, Zay Flowers. But at that point in time, I saw some insane George Pickens like catches out of Jalen Hyatt. And I basically was going off the impression that he was the best receiver in the nation. So he's a guy that I wanted to have. He had a few weeks ago, he had a preseason game with, I want to say Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, I think Tyrod Taylor's with the Giants. Is that correct, Triggs?
That's a good question. Let me go check our depth tracker.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of a guy who's been from team to team and has just had the worst of luck, but in all honesty, really is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think Tyrod Taylor was the guy, and he throws like this can of corn touchdown. Oh, there we go. Yeah, buddy, you ain't stumping the truck on Steve Metrics, not tonight, no sir. So I love the can of corn center field touchdown pass that Jalen Hyatt just burned a guy. And yeah, it's preseason, so I've noticed some of the guys are not giving the effort that they should. But I was more impressed with the immediate play before the touchdown, where it was a slant crossing route. And here's my minute of really breaking down New York Giants football, is that he crosses that field so well, so crisply. It was like a Odell Beckham kind of Devontae Adams kind of style of a crossing route. And he dropped the ball, but man, it was so hot, so wide open. His like yardage of separation was probably like 5 yards, I'd say, from the nearest defender. He just dropped the pass. And that's the one thing that can improve a receiver that you can't really hold against them, is that at some point they can improve at catching the football. You can't really improve at size. You can't improve at height. You can't improve at speed, but you can improve at your ability to catch a football. And we've seen players come out positively on the other side of that. So that's why I expect Jalen Hyatt to be that dominant threat and essentially be like a Chris Olave style player. So I'm thinking with that I essentially got a possible Chris Olave in round 10. That's the game plan with that. That's a mindset. It's very interesting. We're looking at here ESPN. That's a projection of literally 2 catches, if that. And it's very interesting because I'm looking at my team. I integrated my lineup with Fantasy Pros, So if you go to Fantasy Pros, you can integrate up to one lineup from any league, any platform, and it'll give you various outputs of projections on how it thinks some of these players are going to work. And like Triggs and I have pointed out, we do not feel that ESPN gives you true legitimate projections, that they are way too biased on the past and not as forgiving on scheme and actual style of offense and that kind of stuff. So, like, I think that's where we kind of see a failure with ESPN's projections, and I do want to see the others. I think it's interesting. They put Jalen Hyatt as a fairly high projection, but I mean, shoot, we think Dallas has one of the best defenses out there, especially their corners. So that's where I wonder, like, hey, do they feel that Jalen Hyatt could burn those corners and just burn them out of the water, beat them in kind of like the style that Jalen Ramsey is regarded as this like really good corner, but see Jalen Ramsey go up against a receiver with wheels, and he can't cover them. So I wonder if that's the mindset and if that's the way I should go about with my lineup.
It's a solid way to think about it. Like, I don't know. It's weird. ESPN's kind of one of those places where like everyone plays fantasy, and
Right.
you know that's kind of the go-to. But yeah, their projections sometimes are way off, and guys get like 10 points over, sometimes 5 points over, and it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like if you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Jalen or not Jalen Hurts, sorry, Justin Fields is going to be like so stellar, why would DJ Moore be kind of low compared to like a? I mean, he's only a 2 points higher than Zay Flowers, who they kind of thought was going to be lower than Odell Beckham. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I also think it's a very interesting point that like we have this going on here with DJ Moore, but actually when I looked at the projection on Fantasy Pros, it graded him even worse. So they do their rating on a 5-star basis. They actually gave
Oh,
DJ Moore for this week only 2 stars, and they gave Jalen Hyatt 4 out of 5. So that is something I'm going to think about. And why is that? Well, that goes back to
well,
even what I've
okay.
point. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Triggs.
I was going to say, uh, if Jair Alexander shadows him, that's kind of going to be a problem.
Exactly. And that's probably my biggest concern with any player that is a receiver uh, against a Green Bay Packer team is that Jair Alexander is a heck of a corner. He will shut down people. And now that I think about things, I got to think about that. I have to think about that going into this week, considering how scarce points are going to be for a team like mine out of the gates. And do I want to have one of my all-stars get completely shut down? I mean, and that's the other thing too, is like I don't fully understand Chicago's offense. I know they got good players. I know they got good weapons, but I don't fully understand that offense. And if they use DJ Moore in a way that he's more used to, which is going downfield, just torching defenses, then I am a little concerned that Jair could deal with him. And I don't see DJ Moore getting 70 to 100-yard touchdowns off of screen passes. I think that was a fluke of the preseason, and we're not going to see that again. So,
So we did get a team sent to us here. This team is kind
yep,
of kind of nice.
yes, yeah, yes, it is.
I mean,
This is a
clearly
very good team.
clearly there's some guys on here that we have mentioned, like Musgrave, Tank Dell, Zay Jones. there's there's some guys. Jordan Addison's another one.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, Jawan
absolutely.
Johnson.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Like this team is from my standpoint, this team's pretty loaded. I really like what he's got going on there at the running back position. Yeah, it's really solid. He's got the backdoor combo of Lawrence and Zay Jones, and I kind of like I mean, yeah, I like that from last year of Zay Jones being my guy. But I think the way to go about that is look for a week where the pass rush isn't that dominant. So if you can spot that week where the pass rush isn't that scary, I think that really is going to open up Zay Jones downfield because he just flat out torches guys. And I think the biggest problem in Zay Jones not getting enough points was the fact that Trevor Lawrence was running for his life, and he will still be running for his life in plenty of games this season. So if Lawrence has time in the pocket, Lawrence would probably be without any of a shadow of doubt, he would be the best quarterback in the NFL. But the fact that he has to keep scrambling, keep running, still has a bad offensive line, it's going to somewhat halter his growth. And I think he does take a big step this year. He could be the MVP. I could definitely see that. But that offensive line needs to improve. Maybe that's something that they make a big trade for, is something that really improves that offensive line.
That's true. I mean, like it's Josh Jacobs, right?
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah,
DeAndre
because I
Swift and
wanted
Amon-Ra St.
Jacobs.
Brown and
Yes.
that makes
Yes.
sense now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a tough one.
And it looks like too, like if he's ever staring down a week where he's got the potential matchup that he's not feeling confident in his guys, yet Jacksonville just has an absolute like awesome matchup. He could go pretty much all in on Jacksonville. He can throw out Tank. He can throw out Zay Jones. Trevor Lawrence is the guy. I mean, essentially, he's looking at Lawrence pretty much every single week except for a bye week with Derek Carr. So you got that stuff. Yeah, like I like this team quite a bit. So his tight ends are Jawan Johnson and Luke Musgrave. You got that stuff. He even has he has both tanks, and that's something that I was thinking about for this draft, but I didn't execute it. I love
Right.
the fact that he's got tank exactly. Both of the tanks are phenomenal. And even if you're the thing that I love even more about Tank Johnson on Jacksonville is that he is going to take over Travis Etienne. I think he's a better player. I think the offense is better with Tank Johnson, and the fact is, if he can catch a football, it's over. I mean, he runs hard. It's like a good 5 yards a carry at least. There's just more of this like almost Bijan Robinson kind of explosiveness out of him, and it's awesome. I think he's got really awesome Jacksonville pieces, and Tank Dell is a guy. I mean, when he gets unleashed, he was the last receiver I was looking at until I realized, oh man, I have way too many receivers on my team. But whatever. So yeah, like Tank Dell is a guy I was looking at. I love it. I think James has a very, very strong football team. Good stuff. Is that Kansas City's defense or is
All
it?
right. Let me put in the main event.
Yeah.
I think it's Kansas City's defense and Jacksonville kicker.
Okay. Yeah, that I'm not too high about. I do not like I do not like Kansas City's defense this season, especially without Chandler Jones. And it's I mean, like I said, it's a Spagnuolo defense, so they're going to go all out, and there's times where they're going to get torched. So here we go. It's your boy, DJ TRIGGS. Sky's the limit. Very well built team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at like three possible number one receivers right there in that lineup. Even Drake London's going to take a big step forward. I've heard that basically you take his 4 games last year, you multiply it times 4, and he's going to be over 1,000 yards receiving this year with Desmond Ridder. So that looks really good. You got 2 number 1 receivers in both AJ Brown and Stephon Diggs. So being at the back end of the draft, I mean, that happened. Stephon Diggs definitely fell to you, and then AJ Brown is who he is. So that's pretty solid. Yeah, you're with me that you and I are both going to struggle at running back for a while. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, Justin Fields is a heck of a player. I mean, he's going to have some humongous games this season. Like, I don't know. When I see a team like this, I don't always like the hedge with a kicker and a quarterback because you're then kind of playing against yourself. So you really want kickers that can just explode that are not any way related to the
Yeah.
quarterback. So that's something that I would try to upgrade at. You'll probably find something out there for sure. But the starting lineup is pretty solid. Tyler
But
Conklin is a heck of a tight end.
but the
I think
thing
he's gonna,
was,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
the thing was about the kicker. So we talked about George Kittle, and both of us wanted George Kittle.
Yep,
But then I noticed I didn't have any running backs, and I needed a running back spot. So then
yep,
Miles Sanders was still sitting there, so I'm like, okay, I can probably be okay with him. And
yeah.
uh, the kicker situation was kind of the same, where again we laughed at people taking defenses and kickers super early. I still got
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like there were a lot of them going early, but then when we had a shot at them, we had some opportunities. I took Philly as my defense. You have Jacksonville as your defense, and I like it. I like what I see there. They
yeah.
look amazing for both of them, especially. I mean, the fact you get to start Week 1 against Anthony Richardson and the Colts, that will be an absolute disaster. So James, this might be a week you just go all in on
Boom.
Jaguars because like they're gonna get murdered. I don't know what that point spread is, but just take it and just keep sliding it. Like keep sliding that point spread all the way. Jacksonville is going to just destroy them. Yeah, like Indy is. We'll be talking more tomorrow, but Indianapolis to me is going to be the worst team in the NFL this season, and it's going to show. So it is what it is. But I like the starting lineup quite a bit. How about that bench?
Oh, I was gonna say with the kicker. So
Oh, okay.
again, I was waiting in the last round to get a kicker and noticed that Santos fell, and I'm like, this guy only missed 2 kicks all of last season, and they were like one of the worst offenses. They didn't score very much or
Sure.
more kicks because they're gonna be a better offense. And I was just like, all right, I'll take that guy. Bench, boom.
Yeah.
I literally took all of the Chicago Bears running backs because one of them is gonna hit.
Exactly. Yeah, I love what you did there. I mean, that's handcuff on top of handcuff. Pretty awesome strategy. I mean, you and I are definitely big into our handcuff guys. I love the Jamal Williams suspension. I know there's been a lot of people
Uh,
against him. He's had
Jameson.
injuries, but oh, Jamison Williams, my bad.
Ja-
I really like Jamison Williams, and I'll have this video going up within the next day or so of like the best handcuffs out there. I think Jamison Williams is probably the best handcuff for Amon-Ra St. Brown because it's a high scoring offense. And like when one is out, the other is going to dominate. And even Jamison Williams, to a point when he's out there on the field, might even take more precedent over Amon-Ra St. Brown just because of how fast he is. Jamison Williams is basically Tyreek Hill. We only saw it in one game last season, but I can tell you from Alabama to what we've seen in Detroit's preseasons last year and this year, and the one game against the Green Bay Packers, Jameson Williams is awesome. I love seeing that guy play, and I'm really kind of bummed out. I don't know if it's political or what's going on with people against Jameson Williams, but I think he's a heck of a athlete, and especially a team like you where you can do what I did with DeAndre Hopkins, just let him sit. Like just sit out the suspension. You see what you got there, and you can always make changes later. I think Robert Woods's best years are behind him. I do like what you have with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. They're actually both pretty good running backs in my book, so I like those guys. Nico Collins is solid. Yeah, CJ Stroud is actually going to be a pretty interesting fantasy quarterback too this season. So we'll see what we got there. But yeah, that's it's pretty solid. You're rolling the dice with Kansas City receivers, so I don't like that. But yeah, there's really good, I guess, consistency with the bench. It allows you to make sure that when you go into a week and you don't have a certain player or a certain matchup, you should get something good out of your guys, or you double up on a position. You double up on a Miles Sanders and a Chuba Hubbard, or you play as many of the Chicago running backs as you feel are actually going to hit pay dirt. So something like that. And you got Seahawks defense as well. So you can kind of toggle those defenses, but it definitely allows you some flexibility on your defense as well. So pretty good stuff.
Yeah, basically my thought process was like, okay, if Sky Moore hits, now I have a cool name for my fantasy team.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you do.
Khalil Herbert and Rashawn
Yep.
Johnson. I think Johnson's gonna take over at some point. I think he
Yes.
was the 4th-round pick, highly touted.
That's pretty high.
And Khalil Herbert's kind of small. He's probably not gonna run the entire season, or he's probably not gonna get the goal line carries. And Johnson's a bigger dude, probably gonna get a lot of those carries. 1.3 being
Yeah.
projected is kind of low. And then with
Yes.
Collins and Woods, I basically thought, hey, Houston's going to be down a lot. They're probably going to throw the ball a lot. Their running back situation's kind of hit or miss. So, like, one of these guys is going to be a number 1 wide receiver. I'm pulling for Collins. But, like, if Woods blows up or if Collins blows up, now I have an extra number 1 receiver. And obviously,
Yeah.
Hubbard, I wanted to handcuff Miles Sanders.
Yep.
And yes, I do have 2 defenses because Seattle fell to me, and I was like, why not? Like, they're
Yeah.
gonna play some pretty interesting teams outside of their division. And then
Yes.
Jacksonville is going to play the AFC South. So like I'm gonna have a pretty good
Possibly 10
defense
games.
no matter what week I run into.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting
Yeah.
setup. Yeah, I shout out to my guy that I like on YouTube and Instagram, Smitty with the Fantasy Football Show. Definitely hoping one day we can get him on. But he put out a pretty interesting, wild strategy of having like 3 elite defenses, of having like Philly, Dallas, and San Francisco. But man, I think that just totally plugs up your lineup. Even in recent, I think I tried something like wild like that, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And the biggest thing you notice is it really plugs up your lineup. So I've gotten more to the point where I really only like 1 defense, and when the bye week hits, then I'll rock 2 and I'll do whatever it takes to get by. But that's kind of where I'm at. And like I've laid out too, like I'm probably going to get to the point where I'm probably going to just rock with 1 quarterback as well. So, and that's probably going to be Kenny Pickett. So, like, that's kind of what I'm seeing there is like the thing is your roster has flexibility. Like you have 2 defenses, but you have guys that if they don't pan out, you can cut bait and get whoever is popping up on the waiver wire, and the
Yes.
waiver wire is going to explode.
Yes.
So like tomorrow I think is going to be a great show for us to really look at, okay, well, who are some of these guys that are out there? I'm in need of a tight end. I'm in need of running backs, and I'm scratching and clawing my way to find guys. And what route do I want to go with? So it's kind of
And
weird. It's kind of a weird situation, but like it helps to have flexibility in your lineup.
that's one of the things I was going to touch on is like bringing up this bench. So Rashawn Johnson and Khalil Herbert, one of them is going to be the number 1. The other one I could probably just throw away. Nico
Yep.
Collins and Rashawn Woods. One of them is going to be the number 1. The other one I keep plugging up my lineup very much, especially
Yes.
because I'm leaning so hard on AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Drake London. I can probably
Yes.
start those 3 every single week of the year and be okay. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Or, I mean, like, honestly, you're probably looking at least two of the three. So, are you going to go to 12 personnel or are you going to go to 21 personnel? You have that ability. So, I think you, like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, running back is hard. And it's very ironic that, yeah, I mandated one running back position because of how weird the NFL is trending in a non-running back position. But it's interesting to see that many people took a lot of running backs. So it's interesting, like how you and I are definitely going to compete for running back talent that's out there. So there's some weird things going on. There's definitely a team I looked at today, knowing kind of a running back situation. I have no idea if this guy's being like looked at or picked at, but I know the New Orleans Saints have multiple issues at running back, and the other team that you pulled up here has one of those players in Alvin Kamara. So Alvin Kamara is suspended for 3 games, and Keandre Miller has some really bad knee issues going on. And anytime we hear knee issues or hamstring issues like Cooper Cup, it's bad. It can derail a season. That put groin injuries in that category as well. It's bad. So I'm possibly looking at like what maybe do I want to get the third running back for the New Orleans Saints and give myself a little bit of mobility with it. The other two things that are just kind of looming out there is one, Jonathan Taylor, who I have, and then the other player that is out there is Kareem Hunt, and we know that Kareem Hunt has 4 offers from different teams, and he has yet to sign any of those offers. So, like, do these offers expire? Like, what in the world's going on there? What kind of role would Kareem Hunt have? But I don't know how you think about him. When I'm thinking of Kareem Hunt right now, the first name that comes to mind that I think of is Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to have like a Jahmyr Gibbs role for a certain team, and maybe that's Miami. I don't know, but I think if Kareem Hunt can truly play, I think he can be like a Jahmyr Gibbs, you know? And yes, James, you're right.
I
We
actually haven't
score.
really thought about Kareem Hunt in a while.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just want to point out, James. Yeah, you're right. We're pretty much a standard league, except for the fact that receiving touchdowns are 8 points and rushing are 6. So that's why I put a little more emphasis on my
Okay.
lineup with receivers this year. So is what it is, and hoping I get some value out of Elijah Moore. So we'll see.
But yeah, touching on Kareem Hunt, I don't know. I'm kind of like hit or miss with him. He's been kind of a secondary back in Cleveland for a while, so I'd have to kind of check around and see what teams need a secondary back. Yeah, so
Right.
it's. I mean, maybe he can go to Indianapolis when Jonathan Taylor's out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's totally doable, and in a way that would greatly help my roster. And actually, that would give them kind of more of that backfield option that helps Anthony Richardson kind of mature, or the fact that like, hey, you're checking downfield, you're making your progressions, and then boom, Kareem Hunt is kind of like middle of the field kind of thing, like maybe 5 to 7 yards out, and you make a check down pass like that. And I've seen that. I've seen plenty of teams do that, whether it's Aaron Jones or Josh Jacobs or Christian McCaffrey. So that's definitely a doable position. So I like that option. I think that's pretty strong. And yeah, I'm thinking about that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's pretty tough. Yeah, boy, it's ironic, James, that you point that out there. That it would be cool if Jordan Taylor went to Dallas, and you'd have that 1-2 punch between him and Pollard. And boy, it would make my team in a better situation, and would put my team in a worse situation. So very, very ironic on how we would operate that, especially me being a fantasy owner. I think at that point, I would have to make a trade immediately because I would be just handcuffed to one team at running back and have no other like running back in a way. So yeah, that would be tough. I would essentially be basically in an Aaron Rodgers Green Bay situation where basically someone could negotiate for almost any player on my team that is not Tony Pollard or Jonathan Taylor. So that's a weird situation. It could benefit me, but it also could severely hamper my chances if a Jonathan Taylor does show up on Dallas. So it's so weird that we have like multiple backs that have talent that are not definitively on a team to start a season, plus all the weird free agents of players waiting to sign their franchise tags, all that weird stuff. Just way, way too much weird stuff going on with running backs this offseason. And it's definitely led to chaos and weird things with fantasy managers
So I
going into each week. Yeah.
I switched the screens because I wrote no one wants Dallas to have JT. No one means me. I don't want them to have
That's
JT.
yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
me.
It's all Triggs on this one. I'm totally opposite that. I like it in terms of a power play. Selfishly for my fantasy team, I don't know. Like I think I want it. I think I do want to have the 1-2 punch of Tony Pollard and Jonathan Taylor, and just put the fear of like awesome running backs coming at you every single play. But then how do I balance that with the rest of my roster, which is not as balanced as it needs to be? So yeah, I definitely have my work cut out for me on how to build my roster. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Jonathan Taylor ends up.
Yeah, it's so cool to have one of the big dominoes starting to fall, but that doesn't happen very much in the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah, it definitely happens. Um, Yeah, so I know something we were kicking around were some fantasy football predictions. Are there any predictions you want to go over tonight, Triggs, or is that something we want to roll into tomorrow's show?
Oh, we should probably roll it into tomorrow. I was actually so
Okay.
as you were saying this, I'm adding a new banner as we speak.
Okay.
I
Nice.
have to click it.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
Oh, wait, that's not what
Oh,
why is it going away? Boom.
I don't know.
There it is.
There we go. Booyah.
Ah, it says if. Oh man, I have to edit it again. What is going on?
Ah. Hey, we're a mom and pop shop. We're still building, playing things here, trying to figure it out. So there you go. Hey, good stuff. But man, like we definitely need to throw some good stuff out there and kind of review and break down our teams and kind of figure out how we're building our lineups and whatnot. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think we got some pretty good quality content for tonight's show. So I think tomorrow we'll be doing those fantasy predictions, and we're doing our NFL predictions and our weekly predictions. So I think we're going to have to put up put it on the board kind of thing, whether it's a board bet or whether it's us breaking down every single pick for every single week. And how is that going to work? So that's how we're going to roll. I think we're going to have 3 cool predictions tomorrow: fantasy predictions, divisional predictions, Super Bowl predictions, and weekly predictions. There you go. That's us. You'll see us tomorrow here, same place, same time, same platform, Facebook, YouTube for the live show, all the others for the other things that you can see us do. But we are here tomorrow, 7:00 Central Time, or as the cool kids like to say, Chicago time. So there you go. That's us. 7 o'clock tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, there you go.
Who says that?
Boom. I've heard, actually, to be honest, I think it's all the people in Chicago say it because they think they're probably the only city in the Midwest, and I
No one
can't really
likes
debate
them.
that. Oh, I kind of do. I
Oh.
really like. I love the food, the Chicago style hot dog and Chicago style pizza. That's top notch, man. That is crazy hard to beat. Plus, like, you and I definitely have some love for the Bears this season in our squads. Between you and I, both have DJ Moore, and you have the entire Chicago Bears running platoon on your roster. So that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah, I know. If it wouldn't have fell to me, I would not have picked any of them. And then in our league where I have Justin Fields, every quarterback was taken like right away. So I didn't have a choice. I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to take one of these guys. Those jerks.
But we knew that was going to happen. Our fantasy cheat sheet successfully predicted that. So I definitely give that a ton of credit. We didn't just go by the books by whatever ESPN ADP is. We went by ADP that we researched that comes from a very strong source. And we utilize that into our cheat sheet with our bona fide numbers. And it is what it is. So very good stuff. Again, when you check out our stuff on the Fantasy Tracker, that is powered by both our lads and Fantasy Points data. So those two websites are both excellent websites to check out in addition to our Fantasy Tracker, and just really broaden your landscape of how each roster and each offense is built. So really good stuff. Check us out, but also check out our lads and check out Fantasy Points data as well. Really good stuff out there. So we're wrapping up here. Triggs, what video game you got today, pal?
That's a good question. Let's turn around and throw some stuff at a wall. All right.
Okay. We all yeah.
This is totally appropriate.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna flip my camera. You know, the normal. Dun, dun, dun.
I'll be honest, I got my cameras flipped. I have no idea how I'm flipped. It just is what it is. Uh-oh. Is that the original Madden game? Is that the first ever Madden?
Because I can't remember. I think there might be a John Madden football somewhere, but this is 1994.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you are definitely spot on with that. I definitely remember hearing that with the John Madden documentary that aired. I want to say that would be 2 Decembers ago, or maybe it was last year with John Madden's passing. But that was really awesome documentary. Definitely suggest that for anyone out there who loves the NFL. The All Madden documentary is probably the best NFL documentary I think I've ever seen. Especially how important John Madden is into my life, with us doing what we're doing here at Db8 Sports, and with just kind of growing up with football and just enjoying analytics, enjoying technology. John Madden was light years ahead of everyone in terms of technology and utilizing it with football. And I think even today's day and age with AI and drawing schematics on screen, it's still not at the quality that John Madden had with in essentially being there with the telestrator. So awesome stuff. Love what you got there.
Hey,
so
we were asked, where do you watch that documentary?
I would suggest check it out via probably NFL Plus. Also check it out on YouTube. I would guarantee it's probably somewhere on the interwebs at this point. But I would definitely think NFL probably ultimately owns the rights to that. It was aired on every single major platform when they aired it. So it went to Fox, it went to CBS, went to ESPN, and possibly NBC. Yeah, I think it was on NBC as well. I think they simultaneously aired it on all 4 of them. So that's pretty landmark. You rarely ever see anything like that in life.
It's the All Madden. What is it called? The All Madden documentary?
Yeah, I think it's just called All Madden. Because there's a really cool like patch and logo that they
I'll
made
have to look
for
that up.
John Madden.
Maybe
Yeah, we'll look it up. We'll post it on the on our Twitter page, and we'll definitely get you guys that info. So really cool stuff out there. Definitely worth seeing. Yeah, I think you might be right there, James, that it's All Madden 2021, something like that. But we'll find it for you. I'll definitely get it after the show. But it's awesome. It's one of my favorites. So cool. Yeah, real quick before we get out here, my belt, Star Wars. So got some color schemes going on here. But yeah, check out Star Wars belts. So there we go. Cool. Yeah, good stuff. So I think that's a great show we got today. Can't wait for what we got tomorrow. We definitely got a game plan. We got to do our homework. Hey, thank you, James. Pretty good belt. But yeah, tomorrow, same time, same place, 7 o'clock Central Time, Chicago time for those people in that city. Shout out to Carlos in our fantasy league. He's definitely a Chicago guy, and Grady. Shout out to you guys. So 7 o'clock Central, Facebook, YouTube, and be sure to check us out on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow us there as well. So we'll see you tomorrow, guys. I'm Steve M3TR1CS. That's your boy, DJ TRIGGS. Together we're No Debate Sports, and that's
DJ
No
Triggs.
Debate. Yep, DJ TRIGGS. Yeah.